Grace Millane was a bright, energetic 22-year-old woman from Wickford, Essex, England. She had an adventurous spirit that seemed boundless. Grace was known for her warm smile, her love for life, and an insatiable curiosity about the world. Friends described her as a caring, empathetic individual who lit up every room she entered. After graduating from the University of Lincoln with a degree in advertising and marketing, Grace decided to take a gap year to see the world. Like many young travelers, she envisioned herself soaking in the cultures, landscapes, and connections that a global journey would offer. Her plan was meticulously thought out, her itinerary carefully mapped to include some of the most breathtaking places in the world. Grace's journey started in South America, where she immersed herself in the local traditions and shared her experiences through social media updates. Her friends and family followed her adventures, proud of her courage to embrace the unknown. After exploring countries like Peru and Chile, she made her way to New Zealand. For Grace, this was meant to be another exciting chapter in her travels, an opportunity to experience the natural beauty of the islands, meet new people, and create memories that would last a lifetime. But this adventure, filled with hope and promise, was destined to take a dark and devastating turn. Grace arrived in New Zealand in late November 2018, landing in Auckland, the bustling city known for its vibrant culture and breathtaking harbor views. New Zealand was a country of natural wonders, with its dramatic fjords, lush green landscapes, and welcoming locals. Grace was eager to explore its beauty and immerse herself in everything the country had to offer. As a solo traveler, Grace was accustomed to navigating unfamiliar cities. She stayed at a backpackers' hostel in central Auckland, a hub for young explorers like herself. She struck up conversations with fellow travelers, swapping stories of adventure and exchanging tips about must-see spots. Grace's vivacious personality made it easy for her to connect with people, and she seemed to relish every moment of her experience. Like many young people, Grace also used dating apps as a way to meet locals and other travelers. On December 1st, her path crossed with a man named Jesse Kempson on Tinder. Kempson appeared to be confident and charming, traits that appealed to Grace's open-minded nature. The two exchanged messages, and Kempson quickly convinced Grace to meet for a drink. It seemed like a casual decision, a chance to socialize and experience Auckland's nightlife. However, beneath the surface, this meeting would become the catalyst for a series of events that would ultimately lead to tragedy. Grace's family and friends, thousands of miles away, had no idea that their beloved daughter and friend, full of life and dreams, was walking into the hands of a predator who would shatter their world forever. On the 1st of December, Grace connected with a man named Jesse Kempson on Tinder. He was 26 years old and presented himself as charming, confident, and worldly, a persona that seemed appealing to a traveler like Grace. Through the app, Kempson quickly struck up a conversation, showcasing just enough wit and charisma to put Grace at ease. What appeared to be a casual swipe on a dating app soon led to an invitation. Kempson convinced Grace to meet him for a date in Auckland. It seemed like a typical modern-day encounter, a chance to enjoy the company of someone new and perhaps make a memorable connection. But as we now know, this seemingly ordinary meeting would spiral into a chilling tragedy that no one could have predicted. That evening, Grace and Kempson met in the heart of Auckland. CCTV footage captured their movements as they explored the city's lively nightlife. They visited several bars, sharing drinks, exchanging laughter, and appearing to enjoy each other's company. Grace's trusting nature and Kempson's convincing demeanor gave no outward indication of the danger that loomed. The footage shows the two walking side by side, seemingly relaxed and at ease. They laughed, leaned into each other, and shared what appeared to be moments of connection. For Grace, it was likely just another part of her adventure, an evening spent with someone she believed to be safe. For Kempson, however, it was something far more sinister. The night ended with Grace accompanying Kempson back to his apartment, a decision made in trust and comfort. But unbeknownst to her, this decision would place her in a situation from which there would be no escape. The warmth of laughter and the glow of Auckland's nightlife faded as a dark and horrifying reality began to take shape. As the night wore on, Grace made a fateful decision to accompany Jesse Kempson to his apartment. To her, it likely felt like a natural conclusion to an evening filled with laughter and conversation. Trusting her instincts and the seemingly pleasant interaction they had shared, Grace stepped into Kempson's apartment in central Auckland. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery. Behind closed doors, away from the prying eyes of the city's bustling nightlife, the tone of the evening shifted. Grace's vibrant spirit and trust in a stranger collided with the dark intentions of a man who had hidden his true nature. Forensic evidence and Kempson's testimony would later attempt to reconstruct the final moments of Grace's life, but the truth of what transpired remains a haunting and incomplete puzzle. In the aftermath of Grace's disappearance, Jesse Kempson claimed that their time together had involved consensual sexual activities, including choking, which he argued tragically resulted in her death. He painted a picture of an accident, a moment of intimacy that took a devastating turn. However, the evidence uncovered during the investigation told a far more sinister story. Grace's injuries were consistent with prolonged force, and experts testified that the choking could not have been accidental. Kempson's narrative began to unravel as investigators uncovered chilling details about his behavior. Kempson's actions following Grace's death were cold and calculated, revealing a man driven not by remorse, but by a need to cover his tracks. From meticulous cleaning to disturbing internet searches, everything pointed to a premeditated attempt to obscure the truth. The image of a charming, confident man began to crumble, exposing a calculated and remorseless individual. As Grace Millane's life was tragically extinguished, Jesse Kempson's actions in the immediate aftermath painted a chilling picture of intent and calculation. Far from reacting with panic or grief, Kempson methodically began the process of covering his tracks. Any notion of an accidental death was betrayed by his cold and deliberate behavior. He meticulously cleaned his apartment, removing any evidence that might link him to a crime. Security footage later showed him purchasing cleaning supplies from a nearby store, his demeanor calm and composed. While his outward appearance suggested control, his internet activity revealed the sinister depths of his intentions. Kempson conducted incriminating searches, typing phrases like "hottest fire" and "how to dispose of a body" into his browser. Each search was a glimpse into a mind fixated not on the gravity of what had occurred, but on the steps necessary to conceal it. It was as if he had transitioned from the role of perpetrator to a planner in a macabre scheme to hide the evidence of his heinous act. After meticulously cleaning his apartment, Kempson turned his focus to disposing of Grace's body. He placed her lifeless form into a suitcase, an act so devoid of humanity that it underscored the depth of his detachment. The suitcase, a symbol of travel and adventure, was cruelly repurposed into a vessel of concealment. Kempson then rented a car and drove to the Waitakere Ranges, a remote and forested area outside Auckland known for its dense greenery and secluded trails. In this isolated location, he buried the suitcase, believing the wilderness would swallow up his crime forever. The remote terrain seemed the perfect setting for his attempt to erase all traces of Grace's existence from the world. As he returned to the city, Kempson likely believed he had outmaneuvered law enforcement. What he didn't anticipate was the web of evidence he had already left behind, evidence that would soon lead investigators straight to him and the horrors he sought to hide. Back in Essex, England, Grace's family was eagerly awaiting updates from her travels. Grace had always kept in touch, sharing snapshots of her adventures and messages filled with excitement about her journey. But as days passed without any communication, a gnawing sense of worry began to set in. The silence became unbearable on the 6th of December, Grace's birthday. For a family used to hearing from her regularly, her failure to respond to their celebratory messages was alarming. This wasn't like Grace. She had always been thoughtful and punctual in her interactions with her loved ones. Desperate for answers, Grace's parents, David and Gillian Millane, contacted authorities to report her missing. Their plea set in motion a massive search operation, one that would soon grow into an international story and uncover a horrifying truth. New Zealand police wasted no time in launching an intensive investigation. With a young tourist missing in a foreign country, the case quickly became a top priority. Investigators began by retracing Grace's steps, starting with her hostel in Auckland, where her belongings remained untouched. Police examined Grace's digital footprint, including her last known communications and social media activity. The breakthrough came when they discovered her Tinder match with Jesse Kempson. The connection became the first major lead, and authorities moved swiftly to locate and question him. CCTV footage played a pivotal role in piecing together the timeline of Grace's last known movements. The recordings of Grace and Kempson walking through Auckland, visiting bars, and laughing together were unsettling to watch, given what was now suspected. The once innocuous images now carried an ominous weight, capturing the moments before Grace vanished. As police meticulously pieced together Grace's last known movements, their attention quickly turned to Jesse Kempson. CCTV footage showed him as the last person seen with Grace, and the timeline placed him at the center of the investigation. Witnesses confirmed seeing the pair together on the night of her disappearance, further narrowing the focus. When authorities brought Kempson in for questioning, his behavior raised immediate red flags. Initially, he appeared calm, offering an account of the night that painted their interactions as consensual and uneventful. But as police pressed him for details, his story began to shift. He contradicted himself repeatedly, offering inconsistent explanations that only deepened the investigators' suspicions. Kempson's erratic demeanor, combined with the mounting evidence, solidified him as the prime suspect. Detectives were convinced they were close to uncovering the truth behind Grace's disappearance, but what they found next would shock the entire nation. On the 9th of December, after days of exhaustive searches, police received the break they were dreading. Guided by evidence and Kempson's own movements, investigators turned their attention to the Waytaker Ranges, a dense and remote forested area outside Auckland. There, buried beneath the earth, they found a suitcase. Inside was the lifeless body of Grace Millane. The grim discovery confirmed the worst fears of her family and friends. The vibrant, adventurous young woman who had set out to see the world had been reduced to a heartbreaking statistic. The revelation sent shockwaves across New Zealand and beyond. Grace's story, once filled with promise and joy, had ended in the most tragic of circumstances. The case now moved into a critical phase, ensuring that justice would be served for a life taken far too soon. As investigators delved deeper into Jesse Kempson's digital trail, a disturbing narrative of premeditation and guilt emerged. His internet searches revealed chilling terms like hottest fire, how to dispose of a body, and methods for cleaning up blood. These searches, conducted within hours of Grace's death, offered a damning insight into his mindset. Receipts and CCTV footage corroborated Kempson's calculated actions. He purchased cleaning supplies, including bleach and gloves, from a nearby store and rented a car to transport Grace's body. His methodical approach suggested not panic, but a cold, deliberate effort to cover his tracks. Text messages from Kempson's phone further cemented his guilt. In the hours after Grace's death, he contacted another woman, attempting to arrange a date as if nothing had happened. This shocking lack of remorse painted a harrowing picture of his character, and the mounting evidence left no room for doubt. Kempson's actions were not the mistakes of a panicked man. They were the calculated steps of someone attempting to conceal a horrific crime. By late 2019, the case against Jesse Kempson had reached the courtroom, drawing global attention. The trial, held in Auckland's High Court, was a deeply emotional affair. Grace's family traveled from England to attend, their grief palpable as they sought justice for their beloved daughter. Prosecutors presented a compelling case, weaving together the forensic evidence, Kempson's digital footprint, and his inconsistent statements. They argued that Grace's death was not an accident, but a deliberate act of violence. Expert witnesses testified that the injuries Grace sustained were consistent with sustained pressure and could not have been accidental. Kempson's defense team attempted to argue that Grace had consented to the acts that led to her death. They portrayed her as a willing participant in activities that tragically went too far. But the prosecution countered this narrative with chilling evidence of Kempson's calculated behavior, revealing his complete lack of empathy and his attempts to cover up the crime. As the trial progressed, the disturbing reality of Kempson's character came into sharp focus. Witnesses testified about his manipulative and predatory tendencies, painting a picture of a man who viewed others as objects to exploit. The world watched in horror as the full extent of his actions was laid bare. During the trial, Jesse Kempson's defense team crafted a narrative that painted Grace's death as a tragic accident. They claimed that the choking, which led to her death, occurred during consensual sexual activity that had gone too far. Their argument hinged on the assertion that Grace had willingly participated in the acts that resulted in her death. The defense attempted to humanize Kempson, portraying him as someone overwhelmed by a devastating mistake. They suggested that his subsequent actions, cleaning his apartment, Googling ways to dispose of a body, and hiding Grace's body, were those of a panicked man, not a murderer. But this narrative was met with widespread skepticism. Experts pointed out that the injuries Grace sustained required prolonged and consistent force, making the defense's argument of a sudden, accidental tragedy difficult to believe. For Grace's family and those following the case, Kempson's explanation seemed like an attempt to evade accountability rather than a plausible account of events. The prosecution systematically dismantled Kempson's claims, focusing on his actions after Grace's death. They argued that his behavior demonstrated not panic but cold, calculated intent to cover up a deliberate crime. From the moment Grace died, Kempson's priorities seemed clear: to protect himself at all costs, regardless of the inhumanity of his choices. Prosecutors presented a detailed timeline of events, highlighting Kempson's internet searches, his purchase of cleaning supplies, and the methodical way he disposed of Grace's body. They emphasized that these actions were not the impulsive reactions of someone struck by tragedy, but the deliberate steps of a man determined to erase evidence of his wrongdoing. Additionally, expert witnesses provided crucial testimony about Grace's injuries. They explained that the pressure applied to her neck would have required significant force over an extended period, contradicting the defense's narrative of an accidental death during consensual activity. The prosecution also pointed to Kempson's behavior in the hours following Grace's death, including his attempts to arrange another date with a different woman. This lack of remorse and disturbing detachment further underscored the calculated nature of his actions. The jury was left with a harrowing image of Kempson as a manipulative and dangerous individual who had gone to extraordinary lengths to cover up his crime. After weeks of harrowing testimony, emotional accounts, and the chilling presentation of evidence, the jury in Jesse Kempson's trial reached a unanimous decision. In November of 2019, they found Kempson guilty of the murder of Grace Millane. The verdict was a moment of justice for Grace's grieving family and a clear acknowledgement of the calculated and heinous nature of Kempson's actions. During sentencing, the judge delivered a scathing condemnation of Kempson's behavior, highlighting his lack of remorse and his cold, deliberate attempts to conceal the crime. Kempson was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum of 17 years before being eligible for parole. The sentence sent a strong message about accountability, but it could never undo the unimaginable pain caused by the loss of Grace. In the courtroom, Grace's family displayed remarkable composure as the sentence was handed down. Their dignity in the face of such overwhelming grief was a testament to the love and strength that defined Grace's life. Grace Millane's murder reverberated far beyond the courtroom. The case captured global attention, prompting widespread conversations about the risks associated with online dating and the potential dangers of trusting strangers. It became a cautionary tale for many, sparking dialogue about personal safety, particularly for women navigating modern dating platforms. For Grace's family, the trial was only the beginning of their journey to honor her memory. Despite their unimaginable loss, they exhibited extraordinary strength and resilience. David and Gillian Millane, Grace's parents, became outspoken advocates for the safety of women and the importance of holding perpetrators accountable. They later established a foundation in Grace's name dedicated to supporting victims of domestic violence and raising awareness about the dangers women face in today's world. The case also led to broader societal reflection. Many questioned how to better educate and protect individuals using dating apps and how to ensure that systems are in place to prevent such tragedies. Grace's story became a symbol of the importance of vigilance and trust in a world where encounters with strangers can lead to devastating outcomes. In the aftermath of Jesse Kempson's conviction, a disturbing pattern of predatory behavior came to light. Investigations revealed that Kempson had a history of exploiting, manipulating, and harming women. Several individuals came forward, recounting experiences with Kempson that highlighted his deeply unsettling tendencies. Court documents and testimonies disclosed that Kempson had previously been involved in incidents of sexual assault and emotional abuse. He had used deceit and charm to lure women into his sphere, only to betray their trust in the most horrifying ways. These revelations painted a portrait of a man whose actions were not isolated but part of a broader, consistent pattern of predation. The exposure of his past behavior deepened the public's revulsion. It underscored the chilling reality that Grace's tragic fate was not a one-off occurrence, but the culmination of Kempson's long-standing and dangerous tendencies. This revelation fueled calls for more stringent measures to protect individuals, particularly women, from predators who exploit dating platforms and social situations to target their victims. The heartbreaking story of Grace Millane remains a stark reminder of the risks inherent in trusting strangers, especially in the digital age. Grace, a young woman full of life and dreams, fell victim to the darkness hiding behind a charming facade. Her story continues to resonate across the world, sparking conversations about safety, accountability, and the vulnerability of those who seek connection in an increasingly disconnected world. Her case forces us to reflect on the potential dangers of modern dating culture and the need for vigilance when engaging with strangers. It also highlights the critical importance of justice systems that hold perpetrators accountable and provide support to victims and their families. Grace's life, filled with promise and potential, was cruelly cut short, but her story has inspired a global movement to address the safety of women and the risks of online interactions. Grace's family, despite enduring unimaginable grief, has channeled their pain into advocacy. They established a foundation in her name, working to raise awareness about violence against women and support victims of domestic abuse. Their courage and resilience stand as a beacon of hope amid tragedy, reminding the world of the enduring power of love and the strength of the human spirit. As we remember Grace Millane, let us not allow her story to fade into the annals of true crime. Let it serve as a call to action to create safer environments, hold predators accountable, and educate individuals about the risks of trusting strangers too quickly. Share her story, reflect on its lessons, and ensure that her memory continues to inspire change. If this story moved you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What can society do to better protect individuals from predators like Jesse Kempson? Your voice matters in these critical conversations. Let Grace's story be a spark for awareness, vigilance, and the fight for justice.